But a lot of the vehicles that come into the port will come in through Captain Cook, Marsden Wharf. You can also call in Jellicoe Wharfs for counterfeit products as well. More about that later on. So Ferguson Container Terminal, it's our main container terminal. And the trucking companies, as I mentioned, we're a heavy import port, so we don't have as many exports going out. So we always have lots of empty containers sitting around. Having them at the seaport means the shipping line can say, oh, I've got a bit of extra space on my ship. Can you chuck on an extra 50 containers? I'm going to take them down to Napier where they're 80% exports. And they're always trying to get more empty containers. So now we're on to our Ferguson Container Terminal, which is just ahead of us. As you see the straddles drive by, watch out for the drivers. They actually sit sideways in their cabins. And there's another bulk loader over there, and I think they're loading export coal. On the left-hand side here, we've got a fumigation area. So we do methyl bromide fumigation of containers in this area. And then this area directly on the left here is repairs for containers.
Typically when they fumigate the cargo contents in a container, once it's done, it has to stay sealed for about a 24-hour period.
Yeah. Over on the right-hand side, Walrus, which is one of our third-party stevedores, they pack cement into containers. So rather than moving the empty container out to their pack site, they can bring it here and put it inside the trucks, load it into all the empty containers we've got here, nice and easy to export it out. Vehicles are going to be washed will generally be parked over here while they're waiting for a wash, and we do store a few other vehicles here just as storage when required. So obviously you've seen already, it's not just cars coming through here. We get diggers, tractors, bulldozers, quite a few Japanese taxis come through here.
Wow.
I've seen 5 or 6 of those in the last year or two, which is always pretty funny to see.
Yeah.
I don't know why they bring them into New Zealand. I don't know if you guys have seen the Japanese taxis, the back doors are automatic, so you don't have to open them yourself. So nothing happening here today, which is a bit boring. But this is serviced by a mix of straddles and reach stackers. Reach stackers, and there's one parked up over on the right hand side. They're really cool because you can have 2 trains alongside each other, and it can reach over the top of one container, pick up a container on the other side and lift it over again. So what the reach stackers do is pick up the container, drop it off onto the ground, and the straddle will come pick it up and take it over to the exchange area. You don't want to waste your time with a straddle running the whole length of a train just to pick up one container. Well, let's see if we can have a little look at that wash area. So we can take containers and vehicles over here for a wash on the left hand side. This is one of the areas that we can bring it over to get that wash. We're seeing quite a few damaged vehicles come through as well, and they'll often be parked up around here. And I think they're used for scrap parts, or if the damage is not too bad, they can fix them up. And there's a nice Maserati on the right hand side. You guys dealing with cars every day, you're probably pretty used to it. But often you can see quite a few new cars around here too. So driving past here, you can often see the Ferraris and the Mercedes, so it's always a bit of fun when I go past here at the end of the day and have a look at those. The Toyota facility, which they lease long term, it's just guaranteed storage space for their vehicles. It's 3 levels high, they can store up to 800 vehicles, just depending on the type of vehicle that it is.
On the right, there's a Toyo Fuji vessel over there that's on the front right hand side. That's a quite typical type of pure car carrier. It'll have about a 50-ton ramp on the back, and so that's used for transporting mainly cars, but also will handle up to medium-sized trucks, coaches, things of that nature.
Plus, you might be able to see that it kind of tips to the right-hand side, and that's because of the weight of the big magnets on the side of it, and it will just drive alongside them, scanning them, always looking a little lopsided, like it's going to topple over. So quite a few, I'd say these are more second-hand vehicles because they're parked diagonally. New vehicles are usually parked just in straight lines. You can also tell the second-hand vehicles, A, because they look older, and B, because a lot of them have had their hubcaps removed. So a lot of dirt and bugs get stuck underneath the hubcaps. So at the load port, they will take them off. They might do an inspection. Efficient for us to use that back entrance and just fill up to the end of the wharf, rather than trying to split those cars and keep dedicated roadways for them to drive along. So if you do see that in the port, it's usually unloading from the back. back of the ship more often than not.
Just one person you're looking at expanding?
That was Bledisloe, so where the Toyo Fuji ship is. If we extend it by 175 metres, we'll be able to get the Tonsberg on there as well. It's apparently too large to fit on these wharves, and we'll be able to release Captain Cook back to the public, and we would shorten Marsden Wharf as well. So we'd consolidate a lot more on Bledisloe. So people often think it's containers that's driving it, but close to the number as compared to the amount of space you actually have for storage. So we would have a lot more bulk cargo coming through here, and that part of our business is really picking up. We did 3.8 million tonnes 2 years ago, and last year it was 4.4 million tonnes, and that's up from about 2.8 3 years ago. So we've seen a lot more of that coming through. With a lot of the import vehicles coming through, we're actually getting quite a bit of scrap metal going out as well. So we export some of those scrapped cars. He might be moving a little bit, but because there's another ship around the front, they want to be a bit more cautious of it.
Right.
To go forward, it'll power itself.
It's pretty high. You see the wash off the prop segment.
So the front guy's released off now.
I mean, it looks big, but then you see a person on it. How many wide is that one?
It's probably about 14 or 15, I think.
Counts.
Yeah, it was a good time in being able to see that go
15, so that's a nice wide one coming through. So the two cranes on the northern end of the berth have an outreach of 16 containers wide, so probably operationally about 15, so that's why it's on the southern end of the berth we've got the bigger cranes. But the two on the northern end, we can extend those to 19 when we require it.
Very good.
Thanks, Paul. Over on the right hand side, we've got two of our tugs in there. We've got the Daldy, which is the big one in there, and then next to it is the Busby, which is more of a toy tug these days. And they're not in today, but usually on the right hand side we have our two main tugs, the Waipapa and the Wakakume. They must be out working on something today. So you can see that with these ships, huge amount of surface area. So as I was talking, when winds get up to 44 knots, we have to stop our operations at the container terminal, because you can imagine being a straddle at 44 knots is not very comfortable, and it gets too hard for our cranes to pick up anything. So if wind's getting up to that high, then it's definitely going to be a big job to get one of these into the berth. TU Mark, which was really popular about 5-10 years ago, so there are lots of those types of ships. These days